Hey guys, Cody here with Advanced Power Quality. I'm going to be finalizing our segment for storm preparations for industrial customers. Earlier I talked about, some kind of proactive items to take care of before the storm. What I'm going to be talking about now is what to do after the storm and some items to think of and how you can work with your utility to address issues. So let's go ahead and jump into it. As I was explaining earlier about our substation, our feeds, our ATS scheme. So regardless if you have an ATS here or not, utilities still have this normally open point, and they'll have normally open points along the feeder connecting them to several other feeders, possibly even different substations. So the utility at any given time can feed our customer from this black feed. So during storm scenarios, fuses blow, outages happen, it's part of the storm. So utilities have voltage controlling devices. One thing is a capacitor bank. I know this indirectly affects voltage, it's essentially bar control, but it does affect voltage. So let's say red feed has 2 or 3 capacitor banks on it, okay? Let's say black feed doesn't have any. And at the end of the line, no regulator banks, no nothing. At the end of the line, you have a lower voltage here. So storm happens, the utility needs to switch this customer to black feed to restore as many customers as possible. Well, this can run into some voltage concerns for our customer, and they're wondering why they're having voltage concerns. So that is an item to look for. During storms, we always recommend our more sensitive customers, industrial customers with more sensitive equipment, PLCs, logic controls, robotics, to monitor their voltage. Have someone on staff there constantly, looking for alarms, looking for triggers, making sure that these types of events isn't gonna affect their equipment. Now, one other thing I want to bring to our customers' attention is, let's say red feed has 2 or 3 capacitor banks, black feed has 2 or 3 capacitor banks. Well, same scenario, utility has to transfer the customer to the black feed. Well, as I was saying earlier, fuses blow, outages happening. Well, utilities have those capacitor banks, and essentially a capacitor bank has cells per each phase. There's fuses per each phase going to those cells. Now let's say 1 or 2 fuses blow and the other one doesn't. That capacitor bank is still online, but it's only doing the work for one phase. Now what this does is create a voltage imbalance issue. So here, customer may not be seeing a voltage imbalance. Whenever they switch over, customer's seeing a voltage imbalance. And as most of our customers know, voltage imbalance is amplified on current side. Typically, we want to see well below 4% voltage imbalance. That's if the customer is very load balanced on their side. Now, if the customer's load balance is above 10%, essentially the voltage imbalance needs to be limited to less than 1%. If you have a fuse blow on a capacitor bank, it most likely is going to be above this. So this is something APQ does offer also. We'll go into your facility, look and see if you do have a load balancing concern, and if there is, we'll tell you how to address it. And again, we'll look at this also if the utility is providing you more than 1% voltage imbalance. Now, this is saying a lot, but what I wanted to show you here, go to the next one. So these are overhead capacitor banks. You typically have a 600 kVAR, 1200 kVAR. I believe some utilities even go up to 1600 kVAR on the distribution system in line. So as I was saying earlier, you have fuses going to each individual cell per phase. If these fuses blow, essentially the door will hang down. I say door, so this is the fuse door, as we call it. This is a fuse link. this fuse link goes inside that door. Whenever you hear a loud boom right before an outage, this is what essentially explodes inside the door. The door will hang down, letting the lineman or troublesman know there's an issue here. So this is what feeds the capacitor banks. Now moving on to some follow-up items after the storm. Utilities have lightning arresters on their equipment, all transformers, termination poles. Essentially, if you're a pad mounted fed customer, you're going to have a termination pole. Essentially, that's where it goes from overhead to underground to feed the loop that you're in, or to feed the pad mounted transformer. Now, that termination pole will also have lightning arresters, should, after the storm, let's say during the storm, linemen and troublemen, the only thing that they're worried about is getting the power back on. They're not worried if the lightning arrestor is blown. So if you do see one of these blown, and when I say blown, the tail here going to ground will blow out the bottom. Essentially, a lightning arrestor's main purpose is to divert overcurrent and transients to ground. If that tail is blown and its path to ground is null, then it can't do its job. So if you do see this scenario at your location, bring it to your utility's attention and they'll address it after the storm. But yeah, guys, just a few items I wanted to touch on. If you are a more larger customer that really can't do without power, you already have all these schemes in effect. So utilities have a representative go to an EOC. It's an emergency operating center. Essentially, you'll have big utilities, you'll have fire, you'll have police. During large events, they'll all get together and there'll be a EOC, an emergency operating center. All these main people get together. If there's a big event, happening after the storm, this customer really needs power, there's a fire here, you'll have representatives of all those people and all these utilities and customers there. So I do recommend, if you can't go without power for any length of time, talk to your utility, get that contact with their EOC, and you can have a direct line of contact to that person. I'm not saying that they'll put you ahead of other customers, but they'll do the best. The utility will do the best that they can. But again, guys, if y'all have any questions in regards to storm preparations for your business, it is something we do specialize in. We'll go through your facility. We'll discuss surge protection with you, ride through equipment. If you need an ATS, if you need a different size generator, we'll get your generator ramped down to as quickly as it can come down. That's another thing. I've seen so many scenarios where customer has built-in settings that they don't know about, and it's completely off the wall how it's currently configured. We know how to configure all these settings on your VFDs, your built-in logic. Some of these things have built-in ride-through. Your customers are just not aware of. Yeah, feel free to reach out to us. We'll help you out however we can. And yeah, thanks again, guys.